everyone, welcome back.
Yeah.
So are you ready to
Yeah.
dive deep into this book? I mean, this book is basically, it's like the cheat codes
Yeah.
for going from good to great.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
So we are tackling Good to Great
Yeah.
by Jim Collins, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all about those
Mhm.
companies that
Mhm.
go from being good to absolutely crushing it
Yeah.
and
That's the key.
staying there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The staying power.
Yeah.
It's one thing to have a moment,
Yeah.
but to have a 15-year run,
Yeah.
that's what he was really studying.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
we're talking companies
Yeah.
whose stock performance just went
That
bananas.
blew away the market.
Yeah, like Walgreens.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine
Mhm.
$1 invested in Walgreens in 1975
Yeah.
would outperform Intel and GE and Coca-Cola.
Crazy.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, it is.
How
But the
did...
thing is, they weren't necessarily the hottest companies at the time.
Right.
So he was trying to figure out
Yeah.
what was it
Yeah.
that allowed them to have this incredible run.
Okay, so we're talking serious research here.
Oh, this is serious research.
But let me guess.
Yeah.
The companies with the rock star CEOs?
Oh,
The really well-known...
you would think.
Yeah.
But that's what's so interesting about
Yeah.
Good to Great.
Yeah.
It turns out
Yeah.
that was not the case.
Okay.
The opposite was actually true.
So you're telling me that the rockstar
I'm gonna
CEO
drag you
is
along.
not the way to go?
Yeah.
Are-
The CEOs
Well, then what is?
were often very humble,
Okay.
low-key.
Got it.
They call them level 5 leaders.
Level 5 leaders.
Yeah.
What is a level 5 leader?
That sounds like a
Sounds like a video game.
superhero team, right?
Yeah.
But without the capes?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's this fascinating combination of
Yeah.
personal humility.
An intense professional will.
Okay. So they're humble.
Humble but driven.
They're driven.
Like they're ambitious
Got it.
for the company,
Okay.
not for themselves.
Okay. So not ego driven.
No, it's not about them.
Yeah.
It's about building something that lasts.
Okay. So it's really about that long-term vision.
Long-term
And
legacy.
Yeah.
Not about their own ego.
Not about
Yeah.
stroking your own ego.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of these,
So...
CEOs, they were the type of people who, would
Yeah.
attribute their company's success to luck.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Interesting.
They would say, oh, we were just lucky. We were in the
Yeah.
right place at the right time.
Yeah.
We had the right people.
That's really interesting.
But that's part of what made them
Yeah.
so effective, is
Yeah.
that they weren't,
They didn't let it
go to their
turn
head. It was about the company.
Got it. Okay, so give me an example
Okay.
of one of these level 5 leaders.
Okay, so Darvin Smith
Okay.
from Kimberly-Clark.
Okay.
He is a great example.
Okay.
He made the decision to sell off their traditional paper mills.
Whoa, hold on.
I know.
Kimberly-Clark,
Yeah.
paper mills.
That was their bread and butter.
That's what they were known for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he saw that
Yeah.
consumer products
Yeah.
were the future.
Okay.
So he made this huge decision to divest
Wow.
from the paper mills.
That is a huge risk.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, think about, you're the CEO of a company and you're saying,
Yeah.
we're going to sell off
Yeah.
like 80% of what we do.
Yeah. That's a hard conversation with your shareholders and your board.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But he had the conviction
Wow.
and the courage
Yeah.
to do it.
And to make things even more intense,
Yeah.
right after he becomes CEO, he gets diagnosed with cancer,
Yes.
and the doctors are like,
Yeah.
you got less than a year to live.
But he doesn't let that stop
Yes,
him.
keeps going.
He just keeps pushing forward.
And what happens?
And Kimberly-Clark ends up crushing the market.
Wow. Okay.
Talk about resilient.
It is,
And
and that is
right.
incredible.
And it's a testament to his leadership.
Yeah.
Right.
So it makes you wonder
Mhm.
how different things might have been
Yeah.
if he was focused on, being in the spotlight,
Totally.
taking credit
Oh.
instead of just like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
All about the results.
okay, so we get
Yeah.
these humble but driven leaders.
Right.
What's the next ingredient in this recipe?
Okay.
So,
This is the part that I think
Yeah.
is really, really interesting.
okay.
It's the people.
Okay.
Collins calls it first who, then what.
First who, then what?
What do you mean by that?
So get the right people on the bus
Okay.
before you even figure out where you're going.
Wait, so you're saying strategy comes second?
Yeah.
Really?
It seems counterintuitive.
I would think
I know.
get the right people,
Yeah.
but you got to have the plan first.
You would think.
Yeah.
But what they found was that
Okay.
getting the right people
Yeah.
and having that a team in
Yes.
place
Yeah.
made figuring out the direction
Okay.
much, much easier.
So it's like you're assembling a sports team.
Yeah, it's like building a championship team.
Yeah.
You can't just
Yeah.
have anybody.
Yeah, you got to have
You need the right players
great players
that can work together,
that work well together.
that share the same values.
Okay, got it.
So,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and sometimes
Yeah.
getting the right people on the bus
Yeah.
means making tough decisions.
Oh, so you got to let some people go.
You have to be willing
Yeah.
to let go of people who aren't a fit.
It's hard.
It is tough,
Yeah.
but it's necessary.
Do you have an example of a company that did this well?
Wells Fargo,
Okay.
when they acquired Crocker Bank,
Okay.
they didn't waste any time.
Yeah.
They quickly identified
Yeah.
which of the Crocker employees
Yeah.
would not thrive in the Wells Fargo
Yeah.
high-performance culture,
Got it.
and they let them go.
Okay. So
And it was tough.
they were upfront about it.
They were,
Yeah.
but it actually allowed
Yeah.
both the company and the individuals to move on
Yeah.
and find the right fit.
Right.
So
Because
sometimes
sometimes it's better
Yeah.
to rip the Band-Aid off.
it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So imagine you've got your dream team assembled.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of mindset
Okay.
do these companies adopt
So this is where,
to like make smart choices?
this is where the Stockdale paradox comes in.
The Stockdale paradox. I love this one.
It's a great one.
Yeah.
So it's named after Admiral Jim Stockdale,
Okay.
who was a prisoner of war in Vietnam
Okay.
for 7 years.
7 years.
7 years.
That's a long time.
Can you imagine?
I can't even imagine.
I know. But what's amazing about him
Yeah.
is that despite
Yeah.
facing unimaginable brutality,
Yeah.
he never lost faith
Wow.
that he would eventually go home.
Okay. So.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
He didn't sugarcoat the reality
Okay.
of his situation either.
So he was realistic
About how bad it was.
Yeah.
But he still had this unwavering faith
Yeah.
that he would get out.
That's interesting.
And what he noticed was
Yeah.
the prisoners who didn't make it
Okay.
were often the ones who were overly optimistic.
Oh, so the ones who are like,
Yeah.
we're going to be out by Christmas.
Right.
And it's like July.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they just kept clinging
Yeah.
to this false hope. And they couldn't handle
Yeah.
the brutal truth
So the brutal facts
of their captivity.
the Stockdale paradox is
Yeah.
about facing the brutal facts,
You got it.
but still believing
And having faith
you'll come out on top.
that you will prevail.
That is...
It's powerful.
Yeah, it's powerful.
And it's
yeah.
something we can all apply to our own lives,
Oh, absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Whether
It's
it's
the
in our
point.
personal lives or
Yeah.
our professional lives.
Yeah, like if you're facing a challenge, it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I got to be honest with myself
Yeah.
about what's going on.
But
Don't lose faith.
I got to believe I can get through it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the good to great companies,
Yeah.
they embody this perfectly.
They weren't afraid to.
Yeah.
They acknowledged
They're the problems.
their problems.
Yeah.
But they never lost faith in their ability to overcome them.
Do you have an example of this?
Yeah. Think about Kroger and A&P.
Mm.
2 grocery store chains
Okay.
that were facing similar challenges in the 70s.
Okay.
Kroger
Yeah.
faced the brutal facts of a changing market,
Okay.
adapted,
Yeah.
and thrived.
Yeah.
A&P,
Yeah.
they kind of buried their heads in the sand.
They tried to ignore it.
They ignored it,
Yeah.
clung to their old ways of doing things,
You don't want to change.
and they ultimately declined.
Okay. So it's like adapt or die.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
But knowing you need to adapt
I
and
don't-
actually
Are
adapt.
2
and
very
adapt
different
everything.
things.
Yeah.
And so,
So how did these good to great companies create a culture where people could actually,
Yeah.
talk about the brutal facts
and then,
then actually do something about it?
and honest.
Okay.
They encouraged debate.
Okay.
They asked questions relentlessly.
Okay.
And when things went wrong,
Yeah.
they did what's called a blameless autopsy.
A blameless autopsy. Okay, what is that?
So it's about learning from mistakes
Okay.
without pointing fingers.
Yeah.
Because blame just shuts people down.
Right.
It creates,
Yeah.
it creates a culture of fear
Exactly.
where people are afraid to speak up.
And defensiveness.
Yeah.
So
I actually really like this
a
idea
good one.
of the blameless autopsy.
And it's something that you can apply to your own life too.
Yeah, totally.
Like when you make a mistake,
Yeah.
don't beat yourself up about it. Just say, okay,
Yeah.
what can I learn from this?
What can I learn?
How can I do better next time?
How can I do better next time instead of being like,
Yeah.
ugh, I'm such an idiot.
Exactly.
Why did
So
I
I actually use a red flag mechanism
red flag me?
in my Stanford Business School classes
Oh, I like this.
to encourage this kind of open dialogue.
Okay.
So every student gets
Yeah.
a red piece of paper.
That they can use only once during the semester.
Oh, so it's like their one.
It's their get-out-of-jail-free card.
Get out of jail free.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not really about that.
Okay.
It's about
Yeah.
encouraging them to speak up.
Okay.
So when someone raises the red flag,
Ooh, what happens?
everything stops.
The whole class stops.
The whole class stops.
Wow.
And the attention
Okay.
goes to that student,
Okay.
and they can say whatever they want.
It could be.
It could be an observation.
Yeah.
It could be a question.
Yeah.
It could be a disagreement.
Yeah.
But the point is,
Yeah.
it's a safe space
It's a safe space
to bring it up.
anything
Okay.
without judgment or penalty.
Wow. I love this.
Right. It's so cool.
Because it creates that environment
Yeah.
where people feel comfortable
Yeah.
speaking their mind.
It empowers them
And it leads to better
for
decisions
better decisions. Yeah.
because you're getting all the information out on the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And speaking of which,
Yeah.
another great example in the book is Bruce Wolpert's
Yeah.
short pay system.
At Granite Rock.
At
Oh,
Granite Rock.
yeah.
So customers can decide
I love this one,
how
Jen.
much of an invoice to pay
It's so good.
based on their satisfaction.
So they basically say,
Wow.
if you're not happy with the work,
Okay.
don't pay us the full amount.
That's putting your money where your mouth is.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But
It takes a lot of guts
it does.
to do that.
But it forces them
Yeah.
to confront the brutal facts
So they're
about the quality of their work.
constantly getting feedback.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a way of ensuring that they're always striving for excellence
That's incredible.
because they know.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we got level 5 leadership.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the right people on the bus.
Yeah.
We got a culture that embraces the brutal facts.
Embraces the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
How do they figure out their path to greatness?
Okay.
Where do they go from there?
This is where the hedgehog concept comes in.
The hedgehog concept. Okay,
Yeah.
this is where
So this is where it gets strategic.
it gets strategic.
Right.
Okay.
It's about finding that one
Okay.
simple unifying idea
Okay.
that drives everything.
Okay. So not a big,
Excellent.
complex strategic plan.
Okay.
This is about understanding what
Yeah.
you can be the best in the world at.
Okay.
What drives your economic engine?
Okay.
Meaning, what's your profit model
Yeah.
and what you're deeply passionate about?
Okay.
Where those three circles intersect,
Okay.
that's your hedgehog concept.
Okay.
It's your sweet spot.
So like the fox and the hedgehog.
Yeah.
The fox knows many things.
Yeah.
The hedgehog knows one big thing.
One big thing.
Yeah.
And that's all it needs
Yeah. Right.
to be successful.
To succeed.
Yeah.
So these companies,
You're not trying to be
they're not trying to be everything to everyone.
everything to everyone.
They're focused on
Yeah.
that one thing.
Okay, give me an example.
Okay, Walgreens.
Okay.
They became the best in the world at convenient drugstores
Okay.
with a focus on profit per customer visit.
Okay.
So they weren't just trying to be the biggest drugstore chain.
Right.
They were trying to be the most profitable
Per customer.
per customer visit.
Got it.
So they clustered their stores
Oh, wow.
in convenient locations.
Yeah.
Sometimes multiple stores on the same block.
Yeah.
They even used cutting-edge technology,
Wow.
like satellite communication,
Wow.
to tailor their offerings
Wow. Okay.
to specific locations.
So they were using data.
They were using data
Yeah.
back in the 80s,
They figure out.
and they crushed
Right.
their competitor Eckerd,
Wow. Okay.
who just didn't have that same focus.
They didn't have that clear focus.
Yeah.
That was their
That was their hedgehog concept.
hedgehog concept.
It was convenience.
Okay, so what happens when you get
What happened
the
when
hedgehog concept wrong?
you get it wrong?
Yeah.
Okay, so think about a company like R.J. Reynolds.
Okay, the cigarette company.
Yeah, so
Okay.
they went on this crazy acquisition spree.
Okay.
They bought a shipping container company.
Okay.
They bought an oil company.
What do those businesses have to do with
What does it have to do with cigarettes?
cigarettes? Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay.
And they ended up losing focus.
They got distracted.
They got distracted.
Oh, okay.
They strayed from their
Yeah.
circle of competence.
And they paid the price.
And they paid the price.
Okay. So we got
They lost market share.
level 5 leadership.
Mm-hmm.
We got the right people on the bus.
Yeah.
We got a culture that embraces the brutal facts.
Mm-hmm.
We got the hedgehog concept.
Right.
That's a lot to manage.
It is.
What's the secret sauce that holds it all together?
Okay.
That allows
This is where the culture of discipline comes in.
these companies to be successful?
Yeah.
Okay.
The culture of discipline.
Culture of discipline.
It's not about being a control freak.
Okay, so not like
No.
iron fist.
It's not about micromanaging.
Okay.
It's about creating an environment
Okay.
where self-disciplined people thrive.
Okay.
So
That's
it's
like the people at the
you are driven
Yeah.
to do their best work,
Yeah.
who hold themselves accountable,
Yeah.
and who are guided by the company's Hedgehog Concept.
Okay, so it's not
It's less about top-down control.
top down. It's more about creating a system
It's about the system
and the culture
going in the same direction.
that supports
Yeah,
those self-disciplined people.
got it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's about consistency.
consistency.
It's about
Yeah.
small actions
Yeah,
done day in and day out.
yeah. That add up to massive results.
I'm reminded of the story about Dave Scott,
Oh, yeah.
the Ironman triathlete,
The Iron
who
Egg.
was known for
Yeah.
being incredibly disciplined.
He rinsed his cottage cheese.
He rinsed his cottage cheese
I know.
just to get
It sounds crazy.
rid of like the extra water weight.
But it shows you
Yeah,
the level of discipline
that he had.
that he had.
That's right.
Right? And it's not about making these grand gestures.
Right.
It's about
It's
the small things,
the small things
the everyday choices
Yeah.
that make a difference
that make a difference over time.
over time.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings us to technology,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Technology is everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Easy to see.
Base.
Yeah.
So how important
This is an interesting one.
is technological innovation
Yeah.
to achieving greatness?
Mm-hmm. Is it like a
Technology
driver?
is important,
Okay.
but it's not the main driver.
Really?
Yeah.
I would think that in today's world,
Yeah.
tech is how you disrupt.
You would think.
Yeah.
But what they found was
Uh-huh.
the good to great companies
Yeah.
use technology as an accelerator,
Okay.
not a creator of momentum.
Okay.
So they weren't
They weren't just like,
just throwing technology at problems.
oh, if you just get the latest gadget,
Exactly.
the problems are solved.
They were more strategic.
Okay.
About
So
that.
they were strategic
Yeah.
about how they used it.
They figured out,
Okay.
okay, what's our hedgehog concept?
Right.
What are we trying to achieve?
Got it.
And then, okay, what technology can help us get there faster?
Okay. So they were using
To, for example,
Amplify,
Kroger.
what they were already doing.
Yeah. Kroger,
Give me an example.
they were pioneers in using barcode scanners.
Okay. So
Now, that might not sound
back
that-
then, that was cutting edge.
I know it sounds
Yeah.
kind of mundane today.
Yeah.
But back then,
Yeah.
it was revolutionary
They were able to
because they could
transfer from
connect
here.
what was being sold
Yeah.
with what they had in stock.
Yeah.
And it gave them this huge efficiency advantage.
So like Amazon.
Exactly. Amazon with their logistics
Yeah.
network.
Yeah.
It's about using technology
Yeah.
to supercharge your core capabilities.
And
What about Gillette?
okay.
They invested heavily
Okay.
in advanced manufacturing technology,
Okay.
like laser welding,
For razors.
for razors.
Wow.
Yeah.
They
So
using
this is a technology you would normally see
Yeah.
in aerospace or medical devices,
Yeah.
but they were using it to make razors.
That's crazy.
I know.
Okay.
And it allowed them to create superior products
Okay. So again,
that people loved.
it's about amplifying what they were already doing.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it allowed them to create superior products.
Yeah.
And what about Wells Fargo?
Okay.
They use technology to improve their risk management,
Okay.
which is crucial in the world of finance.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they invested in sophisticated analytical tools
Yeah.
that help them assess
Yeah.
and manage risk
Right.
more effectively than their competitors.
So again, using technology strategically
Exactly, to
to
support their cool.
be cool
Yeah.
or to,
To say that they have it.
yeah, just to have the latest gadget.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So,
So to actually improve
Press
their
the button.
business can be a really powerful accelerator
yes,
when it's used strategically.
it is.
Okay. And that leads us to the last big concept from good to great,
Okay.
the flywheel
Yeah.
and the doom loop.
Doing the loop.
What are those all about?
Okay. So
I love these analogies.
they're such good analogies.
Yeah.
So the flywheel
Yeah.
represents the idea
Okay.
that consistent,
Yeah.
focused effort, guided by a clear hedgehog concept,
Yeah.
builds momentum over time
Okay.
and eventually leads to these breakthrough results.
It's like pushing this giant heavy wheel.
right.
Right.
It's hard at first
Yeah.
to get it moving
Yeah, you're pushing and pushing and pushing.
because you're pushing and pushing.
And it's not moving.
And it's like,
yeah.
am I even doing anything?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you keep pushing,
Yeah.
turn after turn,
Yeah.
it starts to gain momentum.
It starts to move.
And eventually,
Yeah.
it's spinning effortlessly.
And eventually
Yeah.
it's spinning effortlessly.
And it's like, look at it go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the good to great companies understood this.
Yeah. They
didn't look for quick fixes.
They weren't looking to get rich quick.
They were playing the long game.
Yeah.
They kept pushing.
They kept pushing.
They kept building momentum.
Yeah.
And they were always aligned
Yeah.
with their hedgehog concept. So they had that clarity of purpose.
Yeah, the doom loop. The doom loop.
That sounds bad.
It is the opposite of the flywheel.
Okay.
So it's what happens when
thick.
companies lack that direction.
Okay.
They're jumping from one new program to the next.
Yeah.
They're constantly
Chasing the next shiny object.
chasing the shiny object,
Yeah.
looking for the quick win,
Yeah.
and they never build
Yeah.
sustained momentum.
And it's like you're pushing the flywheel
Yeah.
this way,
Yeah.
then this way,
One direction, then
then
another.
that way.
It's never going
And
to.
you're like, I'm working so hard.
I'm exhausted,
Yeah.
but I'm not getting anywhere.
Yeah, I'm not making any profit.
A good example of this is Warner Lambert.
Okay.
Remember them?
I don't think so.
Okay, so they
Okay.
were a big company,
Okay.
but they were constantly restructuring.
Okay.
They went through multiple CEOs.
Okay.
They never really found
Yeah.
their hedgehog concept.
They never found their footing.
They didn't.
Yeah.
And they ended up being acquired by Pfizer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Flywheel good.
flywheel good,
Doom loop bad.
doom loop bad.
Got it.
And this brings us to
This actually connects back to
the connection between good to great
built to last.
and built to last,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So good to great.
So initially, Collins thought of kind of like a good to great as a sequel
A sequel.
to built to last.
Okay.
But then he realized
Yeah.
it's actually more of a prequel
Okay.
because
You got to figure out
figure out how to be great
how to be great.
before you can worry
You're
about
saying great.
worry about staying great.
Okay.
So
That makes sense.
built to last is all about
Yeah.
creating enduring greatness. Good to
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
is about
Yeah.
how do you get there in the first place.
Okay.
So you got to build that foundation.
Build that foundation,
Yeah.
and then you can worry about
You can figure
how
out
to make it-
how to make it last.
last.
And what's fascinating
Yeah.
is that even iconic companies like Walmart,
Okay.
they went through a similar
Okay.
build-up breakthrough phase
Okay.
in their early years.
Okay.
They weren't just born
Right.
as this massive
They weren't always a enduring giant.
Walmart.
Right.
Yeah.
They had to figure it out too.
Okay, so what do they do?
Well, they followed a similar path.
Okay.
They figured out their hedgehog concept.
Okay.
They built a culture of discipline.
Okay.
They leveraged technology to accelerate their growth.
So they followed the same playbook,
They did.
basically.
And it took time.
It takes time.
It wasn't an overnight success story.
Yeah.
It was years of effort,
It's not a sprint
years of
or even a
making
marathon.
the right decisions
Yeah.
and building that momentum.
Journey. It's a journey.
Yeah. And speaking of the bigger picture,
Yeah.
good to great doesn't just stop at
Absolutely.
achieving greatness,
It
right?
talks about how to go
It talks about how to make it last.
from good to great
Yeah.
to built to last.
Like you get to the top of Mount Everest.
Exactly. And then you're like,
Okay.
how do
Let's
we
get this last forever?
Yeah, how do we make sure
Yeah.
that we don't fall off?
Yeah.
So
What
how
are
do
your
you
key ingredients?
avoid that?
Yeah.
What sets those truly enduring companies apart
Okay.
from those that just
It's a deep sense of purpose
Yeah.
that goes beyond just making money.
Okay, so it's not just
Collins calls it core ideology.
about profits.
No,
Okay.
it's about having a set of values and
Yeah.
beliefs
Yeah.
that drive everything you do.
Okay, so there's some
It's your guiding star.
bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So think about a company like Hewlett-Packard,
Okay.
Bill Hewlett.
And David Packard,
Mm-hmm.
the founders,
Yeah.
they were brilliant engineers,
Okay.
but they were also
Yeah.
incredible level 5 leaders.
Okay.
And they instilled this strong sense of purpose
Yeah.
and values
And to the
into the company's DNA,
the HP way.
the HP way.
Right.
Exactly.
And what was it all about?
So it emphasized
Yeah.
technical contribution,
Okay.
respect for each individual,
Okay.
and a commitment to giving back to the community.
Okay.
So these weren't just empty words.
Yeah.
These were values
Yeah.
that they lived by
Yeah.
and that guided the company's decisions.
And did it contribute to
For
decades?
absolutely.
Okay.
They were one of the most successful
And I remember reading
Yeah.
that when David Packard passed away,
Yeah.
his obituary
in the Wall Street Journal
in the Wall Street Journal,
was incredibly humble.
what did it say?
It simply said, David Packard,
Yeah.
1912 to 1996,
Mm-hmm.
rancher, etc.
That is so cool.
I know.
It's like he
Speaks to his humility.
didn't need have this
It
big.
was about the company
much
conflict that he had on the world.
Level 5 leadership in action.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And speaking of purpose beyond profit, another company that comes to mind is Merck.
Merck?
The pharmaceutical company.
Yeah. So they developed this drug
Okay.
that cured river blindness,
Okay.
which is this terrible disease
Yeah.
that affects millions of people in developing countries.
Mm-hmm.
But most of those people
Yeah.
couldn't afford the treatment.
Yeah.
So Merck decided
Yeah.
to give the drug away for free.
Wow.
I know.
They were like,
Yeah.
we're going to cure this disease.
Yeah.
Even if
we don't make any money.
Means we don't make any money.
It was about making a difference.
That's really impressive.
It was.
Yeah.
And it shows that.
So daring great companies
aren't just about.
It's not just about the bottom line.
Yeah.
It's about having a positive impact
Moral compass.
on the world,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it raises an interesting question.
What's that?
Can a company that profits from a product
Okay.
that is harmful
Okay.
be considered truly great?
Okay. I see what you're going with this.
So think about a company like Philip Morris.
Okay.
They've been incredibly successful.
Cigarettes?
Yeah, they sell cigarettes.
Yeah. Which
Oh, they're harmful.
are harmful.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Right. Yeah,
But they've made a lot of money.
that's a tough one.
So
It makes you think about the bigger picture.
it's not just about
Yeah.
financial success.
It's about your impact
It's about the impact you have
on the world.
on society.
Yeah. And it raises the question of sustainability,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Given all the pressure
Yeah.
facing the tobacco industry,
Yeah.
can Philip Morris's success really last
Right.
in the long run?
Yeah, it's hard to say.
It's a good question.
Right?
And it highlights the importance
Yeah.
of considering both your financial performance
Mm-hmm.
and your impact on the world.
Right.
The two are not mutually exclusive.
Totally.
You have to think about both.
And speaking of lasting success,
Yes.
we can't forget about innovation.
You can't.
Right?
Innovation is crucial
It's crucial
for any company
for any company
that wants to stay ahead of the curve.
that wants to stay on top.
Yeah.
So how do these enduring companies manage to innovate
This is where the concept of
without losing sight of
preserve the core,
Mhm.
stimulate progress
Okay.
comes in.
preserve the core,
Yeah.
stimulate progress?
So it's about finding that sweet spot
Okay.
between honoring your roots and embracing change.
So they're not afraid
You're not afraid to shake things up,
to shake things up.
but they also
But they're also
respect their history.
respecting their history.
They experiment,
Okay.
they learn,
Yeah.
they adapt.
Okay.
And it's not just about
Yeah.
those big splashy innovations
Yes.
that disrupt entire industries.
Right.
It's also about those small,
Yeah.
continuous improvements.
Those little
What the Japanese call kaizen.
incremental
It's
improvements
like a little twist.
that make a big difference.
That over time up to
yeah.
massive gains.
It's the flywheel.
It's the flywheel.
Innovation.
Right.
Yeah.
You make these small
You're constantly
changes,
Yeah,
and then
right.
it builds momentum.
It compounds on itself.
Exactly.
And it leads to
big breakthroughs.
breakthroughs.
Yeah, and it's also about being open to
Yeah.
exploring new markets.
Yeah.
New markets.
New technologies.
New technologies.
New ways of doing business.
Of doing business.
And that can be tough.
Yeah, especially for companies
Yeah.
that have been successful
Companies that are
Right.
used to
a certain way.
doing things a certain way.
Yeah.
And they've been successful. They're like, why do we need to change?
Why change?
We're doing great.
Yeah, but that's the
innovator's dilemma.
innovator's dilemma.
Yeah. You get so attached
Yeah.
to what's worked in the past
So what's worked in the past?
that you miss out
Can you miss out
on new opportunities.
on what's coming next?
And the companies that last
Yeah.
are the ones
The ones that went
the-
from a hardware company
Yeah.
to a software,
What's IBM?
like IBM.
Right.
Went from
They went from a hardware company
to a
to a
software.
services company.
To-
A leader in software and services.
A huge shift.
That's a huge shift.
I know, they
Like,
had
disrupted
before someone else did.
before someone else did it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's about asking yourself,
Oh, no, what's next?
yeah, what's next?
What are the trends?
Big trends are emerging.
And how can
You
we
capitalize on them.
capitalize on them?
Yeah.
What are the potential threats?
What are the threats? And how can we
mitigate them?
mitigate them?
Yeah.
And fostering a culture that embraces
You got to create that culture
experimentation and risk-taking.
where it's safe to fail.
where it's okay to fail.
Because if you don't
Yeah.
create that space,
Yeah.
innovation won't happen.
People are going to be too scared to try.
Exactly.
So it's not just about
It's not just about
the
having
brilliant idea.
a brilliant idea. It's about creating
It's about creating the conditions
the conditions for it to happen.
for innovation to flourish.
But how do you keep that spirit of innovation alive?
How do you keep that spark going?
Even after you've achieved success.
Even when you're
Though,
top, because you're like, oh, we're at the top.
right.
Oh, we're good.
But the companies
Yeah.
that last,
Yeah. They're the ones who are like,
that are always looking
Yeah.
for ways to improve.
Yeah.
So they invest in
Yeah.
R&D.
Yeah.
They're always,
Even when times are good,
even when times are good,
they're not
complacent.
complacent.
They're looking for promising startups.
They're looking for that fresh blood
Yeah.
to bring in.
New ideas,
Yeah.
new talent,
New talent.
and they create internal systems
Yeah.
that reward and encourage innovation.
Like what?
So they might set up venture capital funds
Okay.
to support
Just
employee-led initiatives.
employee-led
Yeah.
innovation.
Or they hold regular hackathons
Okay.
to brainstorm
Yeah.
new ideas.
So they're creating these structures
Yeah. They're creating the environment
that allow
for innovation to happen.
for these things to happen.
Yeah. And they have leaders
Yeah.
who champion innovation.
Who are behind it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who say, this is important.
Yeah.
We need to do this.
Yeah.
We need to create.
And they walk the walk.
They walk the walk.
You don't just talk the talk.
They don't just talk the talk.
We're out there.
We are innovating, and we want you to do it too.
We want you to do it too.
Yeah.
And it's not just about top-down leadership.
Yeah.
It's about empowering
people
at all levels.
At all levels.
Because those great ideas can come from
anywhere.
anywhere.
They can come
It's not just the CEO's office.
the front line.
Yeah.
The engineers
The people who are
actually doing the work.
Yeah.
Right? So
So the companies that last,
all these ideas,
they tap into that
connect back to good to great.
collective intelligence of their entire workforce.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we've talked about built to last
Yeah.
in this segment.
So Colin sees these concepts
How did
in good to great as building blocks
Okay.
for achieving
Right.
that enduring greatness.
Give me an example.
Okay, so think about the council mechanism
The council mechanism.
that he talks about in Built to Last.
Okay.
So it's this group of trusted advisors
Okay.
who meet regularly
Mm-hmm.
to discuss
Yes.
and debate
Yeah.
key strategic issues.
So it's not just
So it's not about
the CEO making all the decisions based on hierarchy
Yeah.
or even consensus.
It's more about
It's about having those an honest discussions
Right.
to find the best solution.
to find the best solution.
Right.
Okay, and that aligns with
And that aligns perfectly
level 5 leadership
with level 5 leadership
and confronting the brutal facts.
and confronting the brutal facts.
Right.
Yeah.
And I imagine the hedgehog concept
The hedgehog concept is also
that's a crucial building block.
a crucial building block because it provides
gives you that
transparent and consistent
clear
strategy.
direction
Yeah,
that you need.
totally. And another
Another
powerful idea
Built to Last
from built to last.
is the genius of Andy.
The genius of Andy.
Right. Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So it's about embracing
Yeah.
both sides of a paradox,
Okay.
not choosing one over the other.
Okay, so
Yeah.
kind of like the Stockdale paradox.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
you're holding both.
It's like the belief in ultimate success, but
Yeah.
also the awareness.
But also the awareness of the
Rapidly.
brutal facts.
It's
Of the brutal facts.
Yeah.
So it's not about
So it's not about being
blindly optimistic
or
pessimistically realistic.
pessimistic.
It's about
Yeah.
holding both perspectives
Holding both at the same time,
and
simultaneously.
Yeah.
And that's what allows you
And that's how you become
to
great.
build a company
Yeah.
that is both disciplined.
It's like achieving the impossible.
It is.
You're
combining all these
embracing those paradoxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that seem
And using
built to
them,
advantage.
yeah, to create something
Yeah.
amazing.
And that's what makes these concepts so powerful,
Yeah.
is that they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
They actually complement
They all work together.
and reinforce each other.
Yeah.
And when you put them all together, you
Yeah.
create this
Mhm.
incredible synergy
It's that synergy
that can take a company
that creates that
from good to great
lasting
to built to last.
greatness.
Yeah. It's a journey.
It is a journey.
It's not a destination.
It requires
Yeah.
constant attention,
From attention.
a willingness to
Question everything.
question everything.
And a commitment.
And a commitment to
your core values.
your core values.
And the thing is,
And remember,
this journey isn't just for companies.
it's not just for companies.
It's
for
for
anyone
individuals too.
who wants to achieve greatness
Right. Yeah.
in any area
In any area of life.
of life.
Whether it's your career,
It could be
your
even-
relationships,
Well,
health, your personal growth.
right.
It's about
It's about striving.
striving for excellence.
Yeah.
For excellence.
Everything you do.
No matter what you're doing. So whether you're
Right.
leading a team,
Leading a team,
starting a business,
starting a business,
training for a marathon,
training for a marathon,
or just trying to be a better person, fulfilling life,
these principles
these principles can help.
can help you.
Yeah.
And it all starts with
And it all starts with
it's making that first step.
taking that first step.
Remember that question we had?
Remember that question about pushing your own flywheel?
Pushing your flywheel.
What one small action
Oh, it's that one small action
could take today?
to move towards your goal.
It could be identifying your
Hedgehog Concept.
hedgehog.
Welcome back to our deep dive into good to great.
Yeah.
We've explored the key principles that take companies
Yeah.
from good to great.
And talked about how to make that greatness last.
Yeah.
Now let's
Right.
tackle some of the questions and pushback
Yeah.
this book has gotten over the years, right?
Yeah.
Because there's always
Mm-hmm.
pushback.
There's always pushback to every idea.
So one of the questions that comes up a lot is the role of luck.
Okay, luck.
Yeah.
Some people might think
Hmm.
the success of these companies
Yeah.
was just
Yeah. They
a
were
matter of being in the right place
lucky.
at the right time.
Right.
But the research
actually paints a different picture.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we can't ignore luck completely.
yeah, you can't ignore luck.
But Collins and his team,
what they did was
yeah,
they specifically picked companies that outperformed everyone else in their industry.
okay.
So
They weren't
there was no
so they were
if-
outperforming their peers, their competition.
Yeah.
So they were facing the same challenges,
Yeah, they had the same
opportunities
opportunities and challenges,
as their less successful competitors.
but they still
But they were still able to
stood right on top.
achieve greatness.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that
It's interesting.
even the good to great executives
Yeah.
often attributed their success to luck.
Really?
Yeah, Alan Wurtzel,
Okay.
who led Circuit City's amazing turnaround,
Okay.
he even said that luck
Yeah.
was the #1 factor.
Mm,
Wow.
I know.
But
It's
again,
humility.
that's humility.
Right.
You know, it's not
It's not that they weren't
Feel
or
or-
working hard.
Yeah.
It's
No.
just acknowledging
it's acknowledging.
that there's always an element of luck.
Yeah, that there's some things you can't control.
Yeah.
But it's how you react
But it's how you react
that matters.
to those things that determine.
And I think
These good to great companies
Mm-hmm.
don't just ride the wave of good fortune.
they create their own luck.
They create their own luck
Right.
by being prepared,
By being prepared.
Yeah.
By making smart decisions.
making those smart choices.
And by seizing opportunities
Yeah.
that align with their hedgehog concept.
It's like that saying,
Yeah.
luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Exactly.
And they were ready.
And they were ready
Ready.
when those opportunities came along.
Totally. Another question that comes up is, do these principles apply to other types of organizations
That's a great question.
besides?
Businesses
The research was focused on
or nonprofits
for-profit companies,
use these ideas.
but Collins believes that
Can schools use these ideas?
the underlying principles
Can individuals even
of these ideas.
use these ideas?
Yeah. So he argues that
Achieve greatness.
level 5 leadership,
Yeah.
the hedgehog concept,
Yeah.
the flywheel,
A culture of discipline
mm-hmm.
can be applied to any group of
Okay.
people
Yeah.
or even to an individual.
So it's really about
Yeah.
knowing your values,
Knowing your values.
knowing your strengths,
Knowing what you want to achieve.
know you want to achieve.
Building that strong team.
Yeah.
Being honest about your reality.
Being honest.
Making those decisions
Making decisions
that align with your goals.
that align with your goals.
It's about excellence and creating that culture
Yeah.
of continuous
No
improvement.
matter what you're doing.
Striving for excellence in everything you do.
I love that.
A good one.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder that greatness
You
isn't
and-
just
It's not just
for big corporations.
for the Fortune 500.
It's
It's something we can all strive for
Something we can all strive for,
in our own lives.
no matter what we're doing.
Yeah.
One thing
that I
think can trip people up,
it trips people up
that these concepts
is that
take time
it takes time.
and effort.
It takes effort.
It's no
There's no overnight success.
an overnight thing.
Yeah. You're not
You're not going to wake up tomorrow
yeah,
and suddenly be great.
and be great.
Right.
It takes time.
It takes time.
What's
Build
it?
that flywheel.
A great company.
Yeah.
A great team.
It's that
A great life.
persistent pushing.
It's that persistent pushing,
Yeah.
turn after turn.
You got to keep pushing.
You got to keep pushing.
Keep pushing.
Even when you don't see
Even when you don't
the results right away.
see those results.
Because the results will come.
It's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
It's a marathon.
So one last question
Okay.
before we wrap up.
Mhm.
What about the companies that didn't make it?
Oh, the comparison companies.
The comparison companies.
Yeah.
What can we learn
What can we learn from them?
from their failure?
Yeah, because studying failures
Yeah.
can be just as valuable
Totally.
as studying successes.
So what did they do wrong?
Well, what's interesting is that
Yeah.
they often lack the discipline
Okay.
and the consistency
Okay.
to really implement
So they might have
the good to great principles.
had a taste.
So they might have done a success.
Yeah, but they didn't.
They
They're
ultimately
stumbled into the doom loop.
fell into the doom loop.
Yeah.
They weren't disciplined enough
They weren't disciplined.
to stick to their hedgehog concept,
Yeah.
to make the tough calls about people,
Yeah.
or to be honest about their problems.
They were looking
They were chasing quick fixes.
for that quick fix.
They were making impulsive decisions.
Right.
They were constantly restructuring,
It just
hoping to find that magic bullet.
couldn't figure it out.
But lasting greatness doesn't come from shortcuts.
It does.
It comes from,
It takes hard work.
it takes
Discipline.
consistency.
It's like building a house on sand
Yeah.
versus building a house on rock.
Building a house on rock.
Right. A house on sand might look good
It might look good for a while.
for a while, but
not going to last.
it's not going to last.
The house on rock
The house on rock
can weather any storm.
can weather any storm. And the principles in Good to Great
The principles in good to great
help you build
help you build
that rock solid foundation.
rock solid foundation.
Yeah.
As we close out our deep dive into good to great,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with this.
Okay.
These ideas are powerful,
They are powerful.
but they're not magic.
They're not magic.
They take effort,
They take effort,
dedication,
a willingness
and a
to
willingness
challenge yourself.
to challenge yourself.
But if you're willing to do the work, the rewards can be incredible.
The rewards can be incredible.
You can transform your company,
Yeah.
your team, or your life,
Your team and your life
going from good
going from good
to truly great,
to truly great.
and maybe even building something
And maybe even building something
that lasts.
that lasts.
It's a challenging journey,
It is a challenging journey,
but one
worth taking.
one worth taking.
So find your hedgehog concept,
Find your hedgehog concept,
build your flywheel,
build your flywheel,
and create something amazing.
and create something amazing.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.